Hi Andy, it's Thomas. Alright, so I've been working with Hawthorns and Prunus spinosa for nigh on 30 years and created some award-winning ones, which has been very nice. For me, Hawthorns are just, without a doubt, the best deciduous species available, certainly for Europeans. It's got so many qualities. It's got a great leaf size, it responds well to cutting, and with the right technique you can build a really good canopy. So what you're looking at here, it's something I've never shown before. It's what I consider to be a landscape typically of where I collect hawthorns in limestone regions. So it's just an idea that I had. I saw something similar in an exhibition at Harlow Car, but they used a Chinese juniper on a limestone landscape, which I thought was a bit odd really. So I thought, you know, limestone landscape, hawthorn seems a good bet. So what we've got here, this is second growth. So I've already had a first growth on it, and what happens is when I get my first growth, I let it extend to approximately this length. So this is the perfect length for working. It's also the perfect colour because this is red. Now when it first comes out it's green, and then later on it becomes silver. You can wire it when it's silver, but it's not as flexible. I mean, this is flexible, it's not going to snap. If it was silver, it might snap. So this is the best time to do the work, when it's like this, when it's red. Red is it's the perfect time. So I use a combination of wiring when it's like this and cut and grow. What I tend to do is on the very first flush of growth I will wire slightly, and I'll show you what I do. I brought some wire with me. Here we go. And what I use is I use a 0.5 millimeter aluminium, like so. And what I will do is I will wire, I'm going to wire this one. I will wire it so that I can just put a little bit of movement into it. You can see the leaf size on this tree is really nice. So here we go. Let's just wire this gently, gently, gently between the leaves. I don't wire it to the very end. Let's take off the end. And what I do is I just add a little bit of movement into it, and that just gives it that natural appearance. So just that little bit of movement, you can see there. That's all I do, and what I do is I leave that to grow now, and when it gets to probably around, you know, 30 centimeters long or just over 12 inches long, I will then cut it back to two leaves, and that's when it's hardened off. If we have a really good summer, which looks like we're going to do, I might even get 3 flushes of growth on this. What I tend to do at the second stage is actually not really wire the second ones out, because I like to have straight and curved on my trees. So what I do tend to do is just to cut these back to a couple of leaves. And what I tend to do is that when this has lost all of its foliage, I will then go into the tree and remove all the ones that are like this. So I'm going to take that one completely off because I don't need it. What's happened here is that the actual foliage canopy, I don't really want much bigger than this. I don't want it out here. I want it down here. So in cutting these back, I will be encouraging the growth to be closer to the trunk. So you can see we've got, and the feeding regime for this has been very vigorous. I have been using these Japanese cakes, and also every Monday, I call it Foliar Feed Monday, I foliar feed with seaweed. Let's see if we've got a question, shall we? Bear with me a moment. Great. No questions. That's good. Must be doing the right thing. So, there are a few weaker shoots here. I won't be trimming these. I really am just concentrating on these very long ones. Just taking them back to 2. Because the beauty of Hawthorn, really, I mean, you know, anybody that's seen me demonstrate with Hawthorns, I do consider them to be the absolute best for deciduous. They are a 4-season tree. They look fantastic when they're out of leaf, and in springtime, just as they're coming in, they look really, really good with that fresh new growth. But as I say, for me, it's the ability to reduce the leaf size. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over to a full-size tree and get a leaf, and then you can see the difference in size between the leaf on this tree and the leaf on the full size. Just talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a leaf off the middle here, which we don't really need. I'll show you the difference. So that is the leaf size on this tree. That is the leaf size of a hawthorn just in my garden. So you can see you can reduce the leaf size quite well by careful watering at the beginning and the right way to prune. So what is also just the difference in pruning the hawthorn in this Cotoneaster here, I tend to just trim this away just as you would topiary, because Cotoneaster respond really well. So this is actually, believe it or not, a Yamadori Cotoneaster that was collected at the same time that the hawthorns were. So these are, they were friends on the hill and they're friends in the pot. So as you can see, normally in my first flush growth I would wire it, and in the second one I would cut, and that gives you a good combination of curve and straight. So I'm going to take this heavy one off and I'm going to swap it over for a Prunus. So this is rather heavy. I'm going to take it and put it back on the bench. So it's right, okay. Prunus, here we go. Let's just see if you can see that, guys. There is a slight delay. Yeah, okay. So, this is a Prunus that I've had for quite a long time. It was actually an air layer, which was air layered here from a much bigger tree. It's been in a number of pots. This is a Sarah Rayner pot. It was actually in another Sarah Rayner pot. If you look on my blog or if you looked on Facebook, you'll have seen a different Sarah Rayner pot. Unfortunately, a squirrel decided that he quite liked the tree and it chewed through the wire and knocked it off and broke the pot. So I had to repot this about a month ago back into this Sarah Rayner pot, which I quite like. I do quite like it. So, and I've also changed the angle slightly on it. But the interesting thing about this tree is that it did have a lower branch here. You can see I've actually ginned it. Now I don't normally gin anything on a deciduous tree, but because it's a nice shape, I kept it there. But the pruning and the styling of Prunus is completely different to really to any other tree. So you can see everything is growing up here, and I prune this specifically for the flowers. Having said that, the leaf size on this has reduced, and it's showing well. But I want to talk to you about pruning Prunus. Okay, so there is one which is had its pruning done. It's mature. The foliage is nice, and this was full of flower only a few months. No, not even a few months ago. About 6 weeks ago. So that's a nice little compact tree. It's a lovely tree. So let's have a look about. I've got 3 Prunus here. I'm going to show you the first one, which is one I'm developing as a show hen. This is second growth, and as you can see, we've got really good extensions on the second growth. I am not going to prune this yet because, again, I want these to harden off slightly. And in hardening off, small buds will appear further down the branch. What you don't do is you don't cut these too early. If you cut them too early, that bud will not have been created. So when I had first growth on this, I waited till these were about this long, and then I cut it back, and then that gave enough time for a second growth to come through. The timing that you do that is the same time that you do defoliation. Now we've got a Prunus over here. Make sure you can see that. Yep. Just put him down. So this Prunus Mahaleb, I'll go on this side. This Prunus Mahaleb was defoliated about 2 weeks ago, and the new leaf size is just coming out now. There's actually some fruit here. You can see some fruit on it here. So this was totally defoliated. Now I don't want too much ramification in this. I quite like the open nature of it. And again, when this was in flower, it was just totally in flower. This is quite interesting. Again, this was an air layer from Hans van Meer, my friend in Holland. If you're watching, Hans, that'd be great. Again, the wiring, if you look at that, you'll see all the wiring and the branch structure is like this. So what I'm going to do with this, I think I've probably had this about 4 years. What I'm going to do with this is that when this does harden off slightly, I may be putting a little bit of movement into it. The actual front of the tree is probably going to be there. And there's a great big knobbly bit here, because this was part of another tree, and it had a root coming down here. So what I've got to do is I've got to take that off, carve that off. It's ugly, but it does display. I don't know if you can see it. Let's have a look here. It's got a really nice shari up the middle here, very old. This is a very old little old tree. Wouldn't hesitate, probably 20, 25, maybe even 30 years old. So that's interesting. So if you look at the extension of growth on that compared to the extent, these were done at the same time. The extension of growth on this one. So this is secondary growth. This is the first growth. I cut it back to leave 3 because there is a back branch here which I wanted to keep. This in actual fact is not the final planting position of this tree. The final planting position of this tree is approximately like that. One of the challenges with this tree is the transition from this beautiful old fat to this thin. So I've got to get that transition a bit smoother. And I've done it by cutting away at the bark here and here. And you can see there is cut paste. So the next stage for both of these is to let the extensions grow and harden off. So let's go to a third Prunus. This is a really super little Kifu size literati. This was pruned at exactly the same time as that. So trees, even though they're the same species, probably from the same area, fed with the same, they respond differently. So I am not particularly worried that that has not grown as well as this. I think this has probably only been in here 2 years. This has been in here about 4 years. So again, you've got to be patient with deciduous. It's absolutely worth it. If you look at the raft Hawthorn of mine, which is now in Germany, that was 26 years work, but it was a lot of fun in that 26 years. Let me see if we've got any questions. Somebody wants to know if it's a Fucantine. No, it's not. It's a Prunus and it's a Hawthorn. It's a subtitle. So, does anybody have any questions? That's probably the best one. Okay. Right, well, that's it. It's very simple. The Hawthorns and the Prunus will... I keep them outside all year, by the way. They don't go in any winter protection. It's only if it drops really low. Now the lowest we get normally is -5, -7 C. It did drop once to -17. But fortunately I have a greenhouse and I can keep a lot of the smaller trees in the greenhouse. But normally they all stay outside. So thank you for watching. Keep tuning in. Go on my blog, which is yamadori.co.uk, or if you want to look at my YouTube channel, that's accessible. Just type Tony Tickle Bonsai into YouTube and that will take you there. But thank you for watching. Surprised there weren't any questions, but maybe I answered them. So, till the next time.